£15 billion worth of funding has been reserved out for the Warm Home grants. But what does that mean to you? Can you actually get a grant for your house? Is there any free solar panels that are out there? Or could there be any little nuggets that you might want to wait on for? Well, today I'm going to be breaking down all the things you need to know about the Warm Homes funding so you can work out if any of it's relevant to you. Let's go. So first of all, how does this £15 billion great big headline that the Labour government have put in place apply, and how does that break down? Well, £5 billion of the £15 billion has been reserved out for low-income households. What classes as a low-income household is where there's a combined income of £36,000 or less, or you're essentially on means-tested benefits. Now that doesn't mean, okay, well I'm on that income threshold or I'm on those benefits and I automatically apply. Your house has to then either be privately owned and have an EPC rating of D or below. What is an EPC rating? So effectively, an assessor will come into your home, they'll look at the thickness of insulation in your walls, if you've got renewable energy installed already, the efficiency of your boiler as well, and they'll do an assessment of your home. Now, if that's D or below, and you meet any one of those categories, then effectively the government will subsidise or fully fund, in some cases, the cost of solar panels, battery storage, a heat pump, insulation, whichever effectively proves to be the most cost-effective method to improve your energy performance certification. So effectively, you need to get out of that D banding and more towards the A. But that's going to be done in the most cost-efficient method possible. And I think largely this is going to apply in the mass majority to social housing, where effectively fuel poverty is likely to be significantly higher, and therefore the government wants to concentrate their efforts on those people that are most in need. For most people out there, what this basically means is there's no free school lunch. You're probably not going to go and get solar panels or battery storage installed under this scheme. And for most people, they probably also won't want the products that are being specified as part of these systems. Bear in mind, it really focuses on getting things installed as cheaply as is humanly possible to be able to maximise the amount of bang for buck that the government's getting. And this comes in replacement of a previous Eco4 scheme. You may well notice that the cost of bills are going to be temporarily coming down. And this is all to do with effectively a levy that was put onto your energy bills through the Eco4 scheme. So it was added onto your energy bills and then distributed in this way anyway. What they're now doing is not charging it to your energy bills and instead doing it through other forms of taxation in the ecosystem. And then that's the first 5 billion. 2.7 is then going to be put as part of an extension out to the boiler upgrade scheme. So this is where if you've got an oil boiler, older gas boiler, and you want to move towards a heat pump, providing you meet all the set criteria associated with it, that £7,500 grant is being extended out. You can have longer within which to claim it. The idea being that the government wants to rely less upon gas. We do have a volatile grid that is prone to shocks, as we've seen of late. So the idea with this, if they can move you off gas and move you more towards electricity, the idea long term, if we can bring sustainability up, this will essentially work as part of a wider ecosystem. So that's an extension out, and that's another 2.7 billion worth of the funding. There's then a couple of little bits of that funding, say a couple of little bits, we're talking in the billions here. So there is about 1 to 1.5 billion for devolved government, so for Northern Ireland, a bit in Wales and a bit in Scotland, which largely for the people watching in England, that bit of the funding's not been circled out for you. And then there's £1.1 billion for larger heat networks. These are like shared heating systems in large urbanised areas that they effectively want to make more efficient. So again, for the majority of people watching this video, that's also probably not going to be applicable for you either. So there's then another little section for warm homes, but I think where people will really want to hear about this is the green finance funding. And I think this is probably the most relevant section, or will be the most relevant section for the people watching this video. And I must apologise, but I'm going to have to disappoint you here a little bit. The government haven't given us all that much information on how this will actually work operationally. But what they've basically said is, from about April 2027, from what I've read online, and again, forgive me if I'm wrong on that, is essentially the government will be subsidising the cost of loans. So you don't get free solar panels or free battery storage. What they're going to do is effectively cover the cost towards some of the interest payments on the loan that you would need to take out to purchase the kit. So how this sounds like it's going to work in practicality is, you would say, right, I want to go and spend £10,000 on solar. Traditionally, interest rates for solar panels and battery storage are about 10%. Or if you're on interest free, and this is an interesting one, like for businesses like ourselves, finance companies often charge us about, depending on the length of time you take the finance over, about 14% plus 2% product fee. And what that means for you is, if to offer interest-free payments, traditionally in the traditional sense, we effectively have to elevate prices and then say, we do interest-free. Whereas what the government are effectively saying with this is, well, you still apply for the same finance. So you go, right, it's the 10% finance rate, but the government will subsidise a contribution towards the cost of finance, thus making them either interest-free, or what will be more likely is a very low interest rate, a few percent, kind of attributable to a current bank loan. Now, where this will be really good is those people that perhaps have poorer credit ratings, for example, that really want to adopt this technology. And I think the government, what they're going to do is kind of back those people up, enable those households that want to get that technology in to be able to make that take place. However, as of now, you can't have this funding effectively. It's coming soon. And I think what the government are actually doing is a bit of a switcheroo from how I can see it. Currently, we have 0% VAT on solar and battery storage. However, for those with BDIs, you'll know that in April 2027, as it presently stands, that's due to go up to 5% VAT. So what I think they're going to do is add the 5% VAT off, so take it off you in one hand and then give it you in another by way of there's 5% contribution towards the finance. And I think what this will do is it will concentrate the effort more towards those people that don't have £10,000 spare to be able to go and spend on solar and battery, but want to make the saving. I think, and this is a hypothesis, that they will basically say, take off you one hand and give it you in another. Something that is out there that comes up quite commonly that most people aren't aware of is mortgage-based rebates. So if you own your home and you have a mortgage, just double check with them. It's not eligible to all mortgage providers, but some mortgage providers are effectively doing a rebate. Now, this is outside of the warm home scheme, but I just thought it was very relevant, all things considered. So you buy solar panels. Now, sometimes these mortgage providers will give you 0% interest or low interest borrowing on your mortgage to give you green renewable energy. So solar panels, battery storage, heat pumps. They'll lend you the money on your mortgage, but they'll also lend at a much lower rate of interest, sometimes interest-free, or there'll be caveats to this, but they'll give you a rebate, a cash rebate, so £1,000, or some of them are up to a couple of £1,000s, where when you have this tech installed, your mortgage provider will essentially say, thanks for installing this tech, thanks for lending this extra bit of money with us. Not only will we give you low or an interest-free interest amount, they'll also give you a rebate as well. So they'll actually give you a contribution towards the cost of your solar panels. Obviously, it's individual mortgage suppliers, and it will be individual to you and your personal circumstance as well. I'm not a financial advisor, so don't take that as financial advice. But I think actually, if you're going, well, none of these government schemes really apply to me, how can I finance my solar system? Then things like interest-free credit cards are always good. Having a look at mortgage suppliers, having a look at these rebates as well outside of the Warm Homes Grant, which is predominantly there for social housing, low-income family households. If you're thinking, how do I get this for me? Then that's always worth having a bit of a look at. But there is also some additional stuff out there as well. And I think on the notice of free solar panels, there are so many Facebook adverts that are out there going, click the link below for your free solar panels. Are you in an approved postcode? And actually, that's a load of nonsense. There isn't anything out there as it presently stands for those people. Those people telling you that, it sounds too good to be true because it is. And unfortunately, those companies are simply there getting your name and number, They're then getting to installers like ourselves, and they're then selling your details to them for a profit. It's a lead harvesting method. What could be better than a load of free solar panels? So make sure you don't kind of fall into one of those traps of it sounds too good to be true. One of the big changes, and it's kind of gone a little bit under the radar, is the changes that are going to be taking place to energy performance certificates. Now, I mentioned EPCs as they're known in their phraseology earlier on, and this will affect anybody that owns a rental property. So if you're a landlord that owns a building, this is going to affect you. So what this means for landlords renting properties, where they've currently got a rental property, how it stands is your rental property has to be at least an E by way of standard. And quite naturally as well, landlords are not incentivised to improve and put solar panels on a house or to add insulation in the walls, because quite frankly, they're not paying the bill. So as long as they meet the minimum threshold, who cares? So there is a huge chunk of the rented housing stock in the UK where there are people renting houses that want these improvement upgrades and landlords that effectively aren't naturally incentivised to do them. Some will naturally do them, but there will be others that go, look, I want to meet the minimum legislative requirements. So what's going to be taking place is by 2030, any rented property in the UK, and there's a phasing in of this in terms of for existing rented properties and also for new tenants, but effectively the housing stock of the UK by 2030 for rented properties have to be at least a grade C. But as I mentioned earlier on, they're changing what the categorisation of energy performance certificates as well. Battery storage doesn't form part of EPCs currently. And a lot of these green renewable technologies, solar panels do, but effectively they're not recognised by the energy performance criteria. So what they're doing is now encompassing these new technologies that are out there and remodelling it. And I think ultimately this is probably going to make it a little bit harder for those landlords to be able to achieve that grade of C. So that's coming in also as part of the Warm Homes grant. So I think if you are a landlord out there that's renting a property, get an EPC done on your property, look and establish this. Or if you're renting a property and you're thinking, can I get panels put on my house? It's something to open that conversation with your landlord effectively. Something else to note as part of these governmental schemes and the Warm Homes system, be a little bit careful with this. I think this is where the councils have gone wrong, in my professional opinion, of where what they've essentially done is gone with a group buying scheme. So what these group buying schemes effectively do is group together, aim to get the cheapest possible installer with the cheapest possible price and then fit you the cheapest possible system. And ultimately, the scheme's getting a bad rep because super cheap, low cost labour, low cost parts will never equate to, or I can't see how it ever equates to, longevity and quality and good return on investment that happens with it as well. All I'm trying to say here is, don't just take my word for it. Do your due diligence before you're thinking of going. Sometimes if it sounds too good to be true, if it's a super cheap package price, free solar panels, if it's a council-based scheme that's going to cut the cost down by 50%, then normally where it sounds too good to be true, most probably it will be. But do your due diligence. I'm sure there will be good offers out there with individual suppliers, particularly like nice local suppliers that employ the team and don't have the massive overhead that comes with it. But just make sure you're doing those individual checks on the actual installers themselves before committing to anything. I can't stress that enough. Check that they're MCS certified. Check that they're registered with either the NIC, EIC or NAPIT. Just do your due diligence. I think another thing just to mention on the Warm Home scheme, when it comes to this, they make it really hard for installers to actually get funding. I remember when we did the OZEV grants for the EV car chargers, and actually it would take, you'd fill in a load of paperwork, and there is a paperwork exercise to that, pages and reams of information that the government want as part of it, and then they pay you months in arrears, not like 30 days later like you'd have with a trade supplier, but like months and months, like 6 months sometimes we were waiting for these OZEV grants to be paid with any number of excuses as to why we weren't being paid them. Installers will factor this into their price. If they know it is going to be like pulling out teeth to be able to get paid, what they're going to do is charge you more for the privilege. If they've got to fill in paperwork for governmental loans, they're going to charge you more for the privilege. So if you do decide to go down the line of, okay, I'm going to wait for this governmental scheme to come in place, I'm going to do this, when you do actively compare inside the scheme versus outside the scheme as well, I've seen it in the past where eventually installers just add it on to take it off and cream it off if it comes in, when it comes in effectively, and use that as their in with you as the end user. Sounds too good to be true. It normally is. That's my experience from this industry in general. The only time I've ever seen this work really well, and even the government are changing that now, was the original feed-in tariff system. I think they did it. It worked out well for end users. It was well adopted, and then the government had to backtrack because it worked a little bit too well and it was a little bit too easy. And even now they're changing the way that they're doing the rates of inflation on feed-in tariff payments for those that already have them. But when you actually break it down, it's quite empty. It's quite empty for us as installers, and it's quite empty for you as the actual home user from what I can see as well. I think it will affect a few people in those described categories, and it will help some people that are out there, and I really hope it does. And I hope these people have these solar panels and have these battery storage, and I really hope it goes well for them. But I think for the mass majority of people, sorry to break this to you, but there's probably not much that's actually going to be out there for you guys. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch today. Don't forget to continue to follow this channel. We try to delve into these type of topics, whether it's a product, whether it's a manufacturer, whether it's all about solar panels. I say don't forget to like and subscribe. Cheers.